John and Robert Kennedy were worried what the march would do. They got persuaded that the planning was such that it was going to work, but they were undoubtedly worried all the way through watching it, and then the leaders of it came to the White House to talk. John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy were very concerned how you moved at the right time. I think the biggest concern that slowed Kennedy to do some of the things that we hoped he would do was out of his Irish Catholic beginning, out of knowing Boston. He wasn't as much worried about the backlash in the South, which he knew would happen, but the backlash among the white workers and even his own Irish Catholic colleagues. Now, he had already given the strong speech out of the crisis in Alabama, but getting this high on his agenda was completed by the march. Or you could say it was completed by the 4 little girls who were killed after the march. The contrast between the achievement of this extraordinary march and then what happened with the bombing of that church, where Kennedy was and why he was moving. His last words as he got on the plane going to Dallas were cheerful because he had gotten the word that the civil rights bill that he had sent up was going to be permitted to go to the floor by the key committee that was blocking it. And he got on the plane saying, quoting Thoreau, "Westward I go free," because he had gotten that good news. King always knew, and in the last times he talked, said, "I've been to the mountain and we've seen the promised land, but we're not there yet." The first time he met my wife, Claire, we drove him from Baltimore to Washington. And on the way, I was driving. He was strategizing on where we go and how you apply Gandhi. My wife and Coretta King in the back seat were talking. We heard Coretta say, "I've had a nightmare ever since Martin chose this course that he's going to be killed at the end." And Martin turned around to her and said, "Corrie, I've told you to put that nightmare away. Think what we can do while we're here." "I didn't choose this," he said. "You know that. I didn't choose it. They asked me to chair the boycott, and I said yes." And then he hummed a spiritual. It went something like, "And the Lord came by and asked, and my soul said yes." I think the biggest adventure of my life was not when I was on a White House staff or any other thing, or U.S. Senate. It was participating with Martin Luther King at that side of the civil rights movement in that decade. This was a time when this country could have gone into far deeper division than we'd ever known since the Civil War. But it didn't, because we at least took effective action on the 2 fronts of voting rights and public segregation. I consider him one of the great friends in my life, and certainly, in one sense, the greatest public figure that I rallied to when he called and worked with.